Hi, boys and girls. This month we've been learning about vocabulary. When we come to a word we don't know what it means, how do we figure out what it means? We've learned different strategies. We've been practicing these strategies. One thing we can do is look around the word. Look at the beginning. Look before the word. Look after the word. Look at prefixes and suffixes. Look at diagrams, photographs, or look in the glossary of a book. Today we're going to practice using some of those skills with a book called Wiggly Worms. It's found on Raz Kids or Reading A to Z. I'm going to share the screen with you. So now you can see the book, Wiggly Worms. You can see that it's a nonfiction text. It has real photographs. And in a nonfiction text, we have a table of contents. You know that when you read nonfiction, you don't need to read every single page from beginning to end. You can read in any order, whatever interests you. So when I picked this book, I was flipping through the pages, trying to decide what was interesting, trying to learn something new, and I did learn some new facts that I want to share with you. So we're going to start by moving on to page 6. On page 6, I see some photographs with labels and a caption. The caption says, pulling in the tail to move forward, and the label says, bristles. I also see a bold word right here. We're going to find out what that word means. Let's read together. An earthworm moves by stretching out and pulling in its body parts. Small bristles on the worm's body help it to grip the ground. So bristles are on the worm's body. I see pictures of them. They kind of look like little feet, don't they? Let's see if we can get a definition of the word bristles by looking in the glossary found in the back of the book. Bristles, here's the glossary. Bristles, it's a noun, N stands for noun, and here's the definition. Short, stiff hairs on an animal's skin, found on page 6. So now we know that bristles are short, stiff hairs on an animal. So let's go back to page 6 and see that word again, bristles. We just learned a new word. I never knew that worms had little hairs on them to help them move. I always thought they were completely smooth. Let's skip on to the next page. On the next page, there are some photographs, again with labels, mucus on a worm's skin, and mucus trail on a log. This makes me think on a rainy day, if you go outside after it's rained, you see a lot of worms on the sidewalk, and quite often you see like a white trail following behind it. Let's find out what that means. Slimy mucus on an earthworm's skin helps it stay cool and wet. So I know what mucus does. That helps define what it is. Just by reading on, we can figure out a little bit about what the mucus is. It's on the skin. It keeps it cool and wet. Mucus helps earthworms slide through soil. When they dig, earthworms leave a mucus trail behind them. I've seen that. I bet you have too. The mucus hardens on the tunnel walls, keeping them from falling in. That's something new I never knew before, that when an earthworm digs a tunnel in the ground, that mucus kind of acts like cement on the walls so that they don't fall in on the earthworm. So I could get a lot of information just by reading around the word and looking at the pictures, but now I want to go to the glossary at the back of the book and see what it says about mucus. Again, it's in alphabetical order, so I go down to M, mucus. It's a noun, and what is it? It's a thick, slimy liquid created in a body to protect tissues and keep them wet. Tissues are skins, to keep the skin wet, found on page 7. I'll go back to page 7. And again, I can see what mucus is. I'm going to skip on to page 12 because I found a lot of interesting information on page 12. I see a photograph with the caption, "A worm crawls over a large mound of castings." Now, I don't know what castings are, but I can look at the photograph. I have an idea of what they might be. I'm going to keep reading, and I'm going to see if I can figure out what castings are. I noticed before I read there are 3 bold words on this page, so there's a lot to learn on this page. Earthworms also put nutrients into the soil. The nutrients are in their waste or castings. Oh, now I know what castings means because the author defined it. Right before castings, the author said it is waste, or a synonym, castings. So I just learned that castings means worm poop. Just like I taught you last week about elephant poop, this week I'm teaching you about worm poop. How fun is that? Castings make excellent fertilizer. In a garden smaller than most classrooms, earthworms make 170 pounds of castings every year. That's like 15 bowling balls worth of worm waste. That's a lot of poop. Let's go to the glossary and see if we can find these words in the glossary. Castings. It's a noun, the solid waste of an earthworm, and we found it on page 12. Nutrients was a noun that we found on page 12. It's the substance that living things need to live, stay healthy, and grow. Oh, and fertilizer we found on page 12. It's also a noun, a natural or chemical substance that promotes plant growth. So you can see there are many words in this story. We did pick a few of them and we learned what they meant by using the glossary. I would suggest you get on reading A to Z, Raz Kids. Finish reading the story, learn what the other words mean, or if you're reading another book and you flip to the back and you see the glossary, check it out. That's a good way to learn new words and to expand your vocabulary. Hope you enjoyed our lesson today on expanding your vocabulary and using a glossary in the back of a book.